Israel prepares to attack Gaza by air, land and sea. We are ready, says Prime Minister Netanyahu as he meets Israeli soldiers on the ground. Millions of Gaza residents meanwhile flee as Israel delays its invasion. Over 2,000 have been dead in the crisis in Gaza. And NDTV reporters on the front line. NDTV's ground report from Old City, Jerusalem. Our big exclusive, NDTV at the epicenter of the Israel-Hamas war. A big political storm as now there's cash for query heat on TMC MP Mahua Moitra. The BJP alleges Mahua took cash for Lok Sabha questions. BJP says the Hiranandani group bribed Mahua Moitra to target Prime Minister Modi and businessman Adani. Hiranandani denies the charge and Mahua Moitra says, I'm ready for a probe. The big political headline, Congress's first list for Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Telangana is now out. Ex-MP Chief Minister Kamal Nath has been fielded from Chhindwara. This as a Ramayana actor has been fielded against the MP CM. Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV. I'm Vedanta Agarwal. Our top story, well, another cash for query storm in the making. BJP MP Nishikant Dubey has demanded immediate suspension of Trinamool Congress MP Mahua Moitra, alleging that she took bribes to ask questions and target Prime Minister Narendra Modi and businessman Gautam Adani in the parliament. And well, this is based on a letter by a lawyer, and it's an affidavit actually. And Darshan Hiranandani, according to the allegations, actually bribed Mahua Moitra to ask pointed questions, and all of those were with vested interests. In fact, in his letter, Nishikant Dubey has accused Mahua Moitra of breach of parliamentary privilege, contempt of House and criminal conspiracy. The Hiranandani group has denied the allegations. Mahua Moitra, meanwhile, has said, I'm ready for a probe. What really are these allegations? Vasudha has more details.
So the BJP's MP Nishikant Dubey has demanded the immediate suspension of TMC MP Mahua Moitra, alleging that she took bribes to ask questions in the parliament from businessman Darshan Hiranandani to target the Adani group and also Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Mr. Dubey on Sunday has written to Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla accusing Ms. Moitra of breach of parliamentary privilege, contempt of House and also criminal conspiracy. Of course, Ms. Moitra has said that she welcomes any kind of such inquiry, but she's also said that there are multiple breach of privileges against BJP leaders and the Speaker will have to look at all of them first. Hiranandani group has also said that these allegations have no merit in them. But let's first understand what Nishikant Dubey's letter says. Now, Nishikant Dubey's letter basically says that the Hiranandani group and especially Darshan Hiranandani was in touch with Mahua Moitra, and Mahua Moitra had actually given him full access of her Lok Sabha account, and it was basically the Hiranandani group that was basically asking questions on the behalf of Mahua Moitra. And now this is an important area of concern because Parliament is seen as a temple of democracy, and MPs asking of questions is also reflective of the integrity of the Parliament, and all MPs of the country are obligated to ask questions that are in the welfare of the people of this country and also not in conflict with personal and professional associations that they may have with any business group. Now remember that the Hiranandani group has also lost energy and infra contracts to Adani group, and Ms. Moitra's questions were directed at perpetuating the business interest of the Hiranandani group. This is what Mr. Dubey has alleged in his letter to Mr. Birla. He has also claimed that Mr. Hiranandani had paid rupees 2 crore and gifts like expensive iPhones to Ms. Moitra, and had also given her rupees 75 lakh to contest elections. Between 2019 and 2023, 50 of the 61 questions that she asked were at the behest of Darshan Hiranandani. This is what Mr. Dubey's letter alleges. Now, Mr. Dubey has basically based his letter on a complaint by an advocate, Jay Diadre, to the CBI, and it's a very well-researched document where he talks about all the 61 questions that Ms. Moitra has asked and links all of them to either targeting the Adani group or propelling the interest of the Hiranandani group. Now, Mr. Dubey has also said that Ms. Moitra had given Mr. Hiranandani full access of a Lok Sabha accounts where the questions were pasted directly by Mr. Hiranandani or Ms. Moitra on his behest. Now, these are very, very serious allegations, and if you look at the questions that were asked, Ms. Moitra had asked questions on oil and gas supply from Paradeep and Dhamra port, urea subsidies, steel prices affecting real estate, and the powers of the income tax department. And remember that Hiranandani group was also under the scrutiny of the IT department earlier this year, and even before that, the group's name had actually cropped up in some of the investigations by investigating agencies. In his letter, Mr. Dubey has also referred to cash for questions scam that had made headlines in India in 2005, in which 10 MPs were suspended in a record time of 23 days, and he added that this current situation is no more than a re-emergence of the cash for query. He has demanded that Ms. Moitra be suspended immediately from the House because the inquiry is pending, and he has demanded that an inquiry committee be constituted as soon as possible. Now, Mr. Diyadre has also made some very serious allegations. He has said that Darshan Hiranandani had given Mahua Moitra rupees 2 crore in 2021, and this money was basically to tarnish not just PM Modi's image but also businessman Gautam Adani's image in world media. He also says that Hindenburg report, which was very controversial, which came out last year, also reflected Mahua Moitra's charges against Adani, and she had raised questions to target Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Gautam Adani, and these questions were based on Hiranandani's vested interest because Hiranandani group had lost energy and infra projects to Adani group. And in return for asking these questions, Hiranandani had rewarded Mahua Moitra with cash and gifts and iPhones, and also 75 lakhs to fight elections. And 50 out of the 61 questions that she had asked were allegedly on Hiranandani's directions, and Mahua's questions were on ports and urea subsidies. Now, a lot is in the court of the Speaker, Om Birla, because the country has a precedent of taking breach of privilege very seriously, and these issues have actually found a lot of resonance in people. So clearly a lot of statements, a lot of action is also expected, but as of now, the Speaker's office is yet to get back on this matter.
Millions of Gaza residents are fleeing towards the south as Israel is now preparing for a full-blown ground incursion. In fact, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said, "We are ready," as he met Israeli soldiers on the ground, and Israel is preparing to attack Gaza by air, land and sea. But as the war continues, several protests are also taking place across the world, but on the ground the situation is pretty desperate, with Gaza residents fleeing, running helter-skelter for cover and shelter. There you can see how Gaza residents, taking whatever little they had and fleeing this, as thousands have been killed, including women and children. Several women and children were in fact killed in bombings and Israeli strikes in the past couple of days. Israel has now delayed its invasion, its ground invasion. In fact, a 3-hour window was also given by Israel earlier on Sunday, but millions of Gazans now without food, water and power supply, and they're fleeing towards the south with practically nowhere to go. But NDTV is on the ground reporting on the war from the front line. In fact, my colleagues Uma Shankar and Kadambini have reached the epicenter of the war, and they sent us this report from the battle lines.
This is the area which is at the front lines and along this entire stretch there is deployment of tanks, artillery and troops. Now the question is being asked, what now? Because till now all-out offensive has not taken place. Israel has said that it will go all out. It will go on ground, it will go in air and as well as through its naval power. Airstrikes have been continuing continuously through the days since Saturday. That has been happening. But what's the delay? Now, one factor is that while the airstrikes are on, the effort is to dismantle as many as possible of Hamas's installations there. It's places where Hamas terrorists are hiding, from where they are attacking Israel. One effort is to destroy as many of them as possible. The second effort is to get information about the tunnels, about the layout, about how the hostages can be taken out in case there is a ground assault or even before that. Another factor was that the civilians who are stuck in Gaza can be taken out. Now they have been asked to move from north of Gaza to south of Gaza so that they are safe. Now Hamas is saying that they will not move. In fact, IDF has claimed that Hamas has put out roadblocks so that the civilians cannot cross. There was an explosion which Hamas blamed on IDF, but IDF categorically denied that it had anything to do with that explosion which killed people in convoys, including children and women who were trying to go to south of Gaza as directed by IDF. Now, apart from these military factors, there are political factors. It is also being reported by the local media that there are some differences whether when this assault, all-out assault, should be launched. So the timing is yet not so sure. There is one report which says that because it was so cloudy and the weather was not good, the pilots might have had some problem in launching airstrikes, and drones might have had problems. There is another about how the emergency government, in the emergency government, there is some difference regarding this time. Apart from that, there is also a diplomatic offensive which is on. The Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was on a tour of all the Arab nations. He had come to Israel first, then he went on to Qatar, he went to Jordan, he went to even all these leaders talking about how to not let this strife widen. There is also a report that the foreign nationals will be taken out through the Rafah Pass, where through Egypt. Now Egypt has demanded that it be allowed to take some aid into Gaza because Israel has laid a siege to Gaza and most of the things are not going in there, like fuel and water and medical aid supplies. These are not going in there, so it has requested that. But in the meanwhile, the foreign nationals might be taken out of Egypt if Israel agrees to that factor. But till now there is no humanitarian corridor which has been considered. Hostages are still not back, and apart from that, now there is a wait of what will happen next. Is the attack imminent? Will it happen any moment, or will it take time? So these are the factors, different factors which are there. It might happen in a few hours time, or it might take some more time. Now, what would happen to the hostages? Because Hamas has already claimed that initially 13 and later 9 hostages were killed in American airstrike. So is that also a factor where because of which the ground assault is not being laid? Now if the ground assault goes ahead, the ground assault will not be very easy because it is an old city. There are tunnels, and we have seen this information or disinformation war also happening, where Hamas has said that how it will attack the ground forces who come inside. So these are the different layers of a war, and today's modern wars, it is definite that there would also be wars on disinformation and misinformation war, which also we are seeing. So ground assault, air assault and naval assault will take place simultaneously as soon as a decision about this is reached. In southern Israel, near frontier lines, Kadambari Sharma for NDTV.
So active battle lines there, Israel preparing for a full-blown incursion. But as the war continues, several protests also taking place. These are pro-Palestinian protests against the war, against the Israel war. In fact, there you can see protests in Sydney, in Italy. Also protests over Germany backing Israel in the West Bank, something that has not gone down too well with the Middle East. Also protests in Beirut, in Lebanon and Jordan as well. So these are pro-Palestinian protests taking place across the world. And when the larger geopolitical or diplomatic impact, President Joe Biden also spoke with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, urging the leaders to allow humanitarian aid to the region. This as Gaza is completely blockaded and there's no route for aid to reach millions of Gazans there, millions of fleeing Gaza residents. He also reiterated his unwavering support to Israel. And well, the big political headline, it's election season and how, especially in poll-bound Telangana. The Congress has released its first list for both, in fact, for all poll-bound states, including Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh. The Congress is trying to play catch-up there, given the fact that the other parties have released their lists there. In fact, the BRS, as you can see on your screens as well, also released its election manifesto today. A number of welfare schemes announced by Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao and a stamp of KCR there on the BRS manifesto. But in the Congress list, of course, important names there. Ex-Chief Minister Kamal Nath was fielded from Chhindwara and several other important names as well.